Hello everyone, this is John. I'm here to make another video. This time I'm going to go over how the Nephites came to the Promised Land. So the first point I'd like to discuss is when the Nephites left. Now, it kind of gives an idea. I don't think it directly states exactly when they left, but it says that they left around the time of the commencement of the reign of King Zedekiah. And that source right here is, I'll just highlight that for you, that's in 1 Nephi chapter 5. There's also another source that talks about the Mulekites and how they came in during the reign of Zedekiah. So it almost suggests that the people of, or the Mulekites came after the Nephites. Let's go ahead and read those two verses here. So I'm going to go here to 1 Nephi chapter 5. Let's see, we're going to verses 12 and 13. This is when Nephi is going with his brothers to get the brass plates, and it's just discussing what the record is that they're trying to get. And it says, and also a record of the Jews from the beginning, even down to the commencement of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, and also the prophecies of the holy prophets from the beginning even down to the commencement of the reign of Zedekiah, and also many prophecies which have been spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah. Now the second source here I was going to read was in Omni. It's Omni chapter 1 verse 15. This is talking about the Mulekites and when they left. For those who don't know, the Mulekites were the first group of people that inhabited Zarahemla, which is one of the most important cities in the Book of Mormon timelines. So let's go here to verse 15. Behold, it came to pass that Mosiah discovered that the people of Zarahemla came out from Jerusalem at the time that Zedekiah, king of Judah, was carried away captive into Babylon. So you see how one says the commencement, we're at the beginning, and then one says when Zedekiah was carried away. So it almost makes it sound like like I said, it makes it sound like the Mulekites left after Nephi's group, or Lehi's group. Okay, point 2 I'd like to discuss. It does say in the Book of Mormon that the direction of travel was south-southeast until they reached more fertile lands, and then they turned eastward until they got to the sea. I'm just going to show you here on Google Earth. So southeast would be about 157 degrees as a compass points, and I just drew a line here to indicate. You can see right here it says 100, well, it's close enough to 157. So that's the direction of travel, if you can see my mouse moving. So even a better map I found was here on the FAIR website. This discussed the possible locations for a city called Nahom. Now, Nahom is not currently known today, but there is some some archaeological evidence that suggests that this city actually existed during the Book of Mormon times, and that the people of Lehi encountered this city when they buried Ishmael on the way to the sea. This just goes over. If you type into the FAIR website, you can go to this website. But it just asks the question, why does Nahom constitute archaeological evidence for the Book of Mormon? The points in bold are kind of the points that they go over to suggest that this was actually a real city, and it has archaeological proof. So I just wanted to show one part of this. This is a map. So if we zoom in here, it kind of shows now again, keep in mind that they went south-southeast, so they would have gone this direction, and then it says they turned east at a certain point. And I'm going to go ahead and read those scriptures here for you. So the first one is in 1 Nephi chapter 16, verses 12 through 16. And I'll just highlight the part where it says they went southeast. So it talks right here. This is verse 12. This is where it starts. It says they left the valley of, or the river Laman and the valley Lemuel, which were named after Nephi's brothers. And it says they traveled for the space of 4 days, nearly a south-southeast direction. I'm just going to highlight that right here. Well, another important part is that it says they were keeping in the most fertile parts of the wilderness, which were in the borders near the Red Sea. And it also says that they followed the directions of the Lehi. Now let's go here to verse 17. This also shows something interesting. It says, and it came to pass that we did again take our journey in the wilderness, and we did travel nearly eastward. So it makes it sound like they switched directions from that time forth. So I would consider this map right here pretty accurate depiction of how they traveled, and this probably is pretty close to where they left our boat. Is right here on the Arabian Peninsula. Now, one thing I wanted to show you about the Arabian Peninsula that's kind of fascinating is there's actually been scientific studies that show that it was more lush at times, and it had more, it could grow more vegetation. I'm just going to quote an excerpt from this webpage here. I'll leave links in the description if people want to look at the links. So let's go down here to, now this site right actually here is in Oman, but it's on the Arabian Peninsula, and it says one such site is at Jabal Sanman in the Great Nafud Desert, which has yielded a treasury of rock art, epigraphy, and other evidence of human habitation along the shores of a now vanished 20-kilometer-long lake dating back about 8,000 years. This is one of the 11 sites in Saudi Arabia currently under consideration for inclusion on UNESCO's World Heritage List. Such discoveries, says Professor Petraglia, show that far from being an archaeological wasteland, Arabia is a beautiful laboratory for examining cultural and demographic change relative to climate change. Now, I believe one of the reasons why Arabia can get these lush parts here on the southern tips is it has to do with the monsoon. I don't know if you know, if people know, but some parts of the world, let me just close this out. Some parts of the world, such as India, and also Thailand and these countries over here, they have something called a monsoon. And that just has to do with a climate cycle that happens yearly, where the more southern portions of, like if you look at India here, it's a really good example. Like look at the southern portions of this continent. It's just like really green and lush. If you go further north, you start going into desert areas. That's a consequence of the monsoon seasons. So let's go on here to the next point. Now this is just kind of continuing on what I read before, but it says they, so talking about Lehi and his sons and his travel party, supposedly traveled in the same course until they reached Nahom. And that's depicted right here in this map. So they traveled the same course. Then when they reached Nahom, they switched directions. Okay, the next point They traveled for 8 years in the wilderness and eventually reached the seas. And this is described in 1 Nephi chapter 17, verses 4 through 6. And I'm going to go ahead and read all of these verses. The reason I want to read these verses is because it kind of shows how they prepared for their journey as well. And also it kind of goes over how long they were traveling in the wilderness, which was 8 years. So it says, and we did sojourn for the space of many years, yea, even 8 years in the wilderness. And we came to the land which we called Bountiful, because of its much fruit, and also wild honey. Again, there's that lush part of the Arabian Peninsula. And all these things were prepared of the Lord, that we might not perish. And we beheld the sea, which we called Iriantum, which being interpreted is many waters. And it came to pass that we did pitch our tents by the seashore, and notwithstanding we had suffered many afflictions and much difficulty, yea, even so much that we cannot write them all. We were exceedingly rejoiced when we came to the seashore, and we called the place Bountiful because of its much fruit. And it came to pass that after I, Nephi, had been in the land of Bountiful for the space of many days, the voice of the Lord came unto me, saying, Arise and get thee into the mountain. And it came to pass that I arose and went up into the mountain and cried unto the Lord. And it came to pass that the Lord spake unto me, saying, Thou shalt construct a ship after the manner which I shall show thee, that I may carry thy people across these waters. So that just kind of goes, well, so that kind of shows how they started this journey, or this shipbuilding thing, and then started their journey. There was something I wanted to read. Well, maybe I can do that in another video, but there was something I wanted to read about the supplies they took with them, because they did take a lot. It says they did take seeds. That might give some clues about where these people landed, because if we can find evidence of the seeds that they took, well, I have actually talked about the persimmon tree in one of my videos, and I also related how I think that the Book of Mormon took place near California, and that the persimmon tree can grow in those areas. So that might be something to look into later. Now, one thing I wanted to emphasize also is that when they were on the ship, they also used the Liahona. And that's there's a source for that in 1 Nephi chapter 18, verse 12. And let's see here. Yeah, so verse 12 talks about them using the Liahona on the ship. 1 Nephi 18, verses 4 and 6. Oh, that's where it says they brought seeds, right there. They also took much fruits and meat from the wilderness, and honey in abundance. So I'm not sure if there's a lot of bees on the Arabian Peninsula, but that might give some clues about where they departed. So that's really all I wanted to discuss for this video. I wanted to kind of keep it a little bit shorter. But one other kind of interesting point I wanted to highlight is, I think there's this debate going on, like, did the people in the Book of Mormon go across the Atlantic, or did they go across the Indian Ocean and then the Pacific, or specifically Lehi's group? I would say, I think this map right here kind of confirms that they probably went across the Indian Ocean and then the Pacific. Now, I guess some might say, well, they could have gone around like if you look at the globe here, they could have come down south here and gone around the Cape of Good Hope. But one thing I've kind of found, I've kind of noticed this from watching a lot of sailing videos. These really southern latitudes can be very treacherous with the weather. So I'm not exactly sure that they would have gone down that way unless they had some help from the Lord. I guess the possibility is there. I did want to read one more portion of an article here. This guy, he kind of highlights what it's like traveling around. This guy relates a story, or he relates an incident where he's traveled from the east part of Africa around the Cape of Good Hope to the west coast, and he just kind of says something interesting here. I thought this might give some insight. The South African wild coast runs along. No, the wild coast is right here. This is on the east part of Africa, or South Africa. The South African wild coast runs along a rugged coastline of untouched shores and shipwrecks, and is one of the most dangerous places of water in the world. Not only are there frequent storms coming from the southwest, so this would be the southwest. So I believe he's saying that the storm wind is flowing this way. There is also a 4-knot current going against it. This sweeps up the waves to dangerous heights and creates giant rollers that Discovery or most sailing yachts cannot handle. This 800-mile coastline only has 5 safe places to hide. Navigating these waters is done by closely watching the weather windows and using every opportunity with favorable winds to get to the next port. So I don't know. I mean, I guess if they had a safe passage, they could have gone this way. But it is really long. But I guess so is this direction too. So both directions are really, really long distances. But anyways, that's just some thoughts, and I'll be back in another video. Thank you, and have a good day.